Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's talk about artificial intelligence. It's a technology that has completely jumped out of science fiction and right into our daily lives. And honestly, it's unlocking these incredible new scientific frontiers, but at the same time, it's forcing us to ask some of the toughest questions our society has ever had to face. Everything we're about to dive into really boils down to this one simple but kind of profound question. It was asked over 70 years ago by the brilliant computer scientist Alan Turing. This question, can machines think? Well, it's been the engine behind decades of research, and it's led us straight to the AI revolution that's happening all around us today. So to really get a handle on where AI is going, we've got to start with what it actually is. And maybe more importantly, why, after decades of kind of bubbling under the surface, it suddenly feels like it is absolutely everywhere. Okay, so at its core, AI is really just the science of making machines smart. The whole goal is to build systems that can see what's around them, learn from data, and then make decisions to achieve a goal. A lot like we do. It's about taking our own cognitive functions, like learning something new or solving a puzzle, and figuring out how to make a machine do the same thing. It might surprise you to see that AI has had these major boom and bust cycles. The whole idea was born with this huge wave of optimism back in 1956. But progress was slow, really slow. It led to these periods they called AI winters, where all the funding and interest just completely dried up. So what changed? Well, around 2012, we got a perfect storm. Powerful computer chips called GPUs, which, funny enough, were originally made for video games, became widely available. You combine that with an almost unimaginable amount of data from the internet, and boom, that combination was the rocket fuel for the AI explosion we're living through right now. So, how does this deep learning thing actually work? Well, a simple way to think about it is like a digital brain with many, many layers of neurons. Let's say you show it a picture of a cat. The very first layer might just see simple stuff like edges and colors. It passes that info to the next layer, which might combine those edges into basic shapes. The next layer takes those shapes and sees features, like an eye or a whisker. And this process just keeps going, layer by layer, getting more complex, until the final layer goes, yep, that's a cat. That layered or deep approach is what gives modern AI its incredible power. And with that kind of power comes some pretty incredible potential. So let's look at the promise of AI, starting with what might be its most important application of all, totally transforming our health. This quote from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella really just nails it. The thinking is, hey, if AI can solve some of the most complex problems in science, then we should probably aim it at our most critical human problems, like fighting disease. And look, this isn't just a theory, it is happening as we speak. DeepMind's AlphaFold literally solved a 50-year-old grand challenge in biology called protein folding, which is just massively speeding up drug discovery. Researchers have used AI to find totally new kinds of antibiotics that can kill those terrifying superbugs. The bottom line is, AI is making scientific breakthroughs happen right now that we used to think were decades away. And this really shows you the sheer scale of the impact. In the hunt for new treatments for Parkinson's, AI didn't just make things a little bit cheaper. No, it made the initial screening process 1,000 times cheaper. That is the kind of leap that can totally change the entire economic model of curing disease. But, and this is a huge but, for all of its life-saving promise, AI is absolutely a double-edged sword. And its dark side? Well, it presents some of the most profound and tricky risks our society has ever had to deal with. Just take a look at this timeline for a second. This shows how fast deepfake technology evolved in just a few short years. It went from being this niche, super hard-to-use tech to something that's accessible enough for people to create totally convincing fakes. And those fakes are spreading like wildfire online. So, what are deepfakes? They're synthetic media. AI generated videos, images, audio of things that never, ever happened. And while you might think their main use is for political chaos, the reality is a lot uglier. Research from Sin City AI found that the overwhelming majority, we're talking 90 to 95% of deepfake videos, are actually non-consensual pornography, and they primarily target women. And the peril isn't just in these malicious fakes. It's also in the systems that we build to make really important decisions. There was a software called Compass, used in U.S. courts to predict if a defendant was likely to reoffend. An investigation found it was incredibly biased. Even though the algorithm was never told the defendant's race, it learned to copy historical biases from the data, consistently flagging Black defendants as higher risk than they actually were, and white defendants as lower risk. And behind these statistics and these systems are real people. This is a quote from Noelle Martin, an activist who was targeted by deepfake pornography when she was only 17. Her words just highlight the devastating personal cost of this technology when it's weaponized. It's a violation that has lasting, real-world consequences. So we've got this tool with immense promise and immense peril. Where in the world does that leave us? This brings us to the really big questions about our shared future, our jobs, our safety, and the choices that, frankly, all of us have to make. One of the biggest fears, of course, is about jobs. And according to an analysis from Goldman Sachs, it's not just blue-collar work at risk anymore. A lot of white-collar jobs that involve repetitive tasks, think accounting or administrative work, are very likely to be automated. On the flip side, jobs that need high-stakes, real-time decisions, complex human interaction, or deep empathy, well, those seem to be the most resilient, at least for now. And then the debate gets even bigger. It goes from jobs to the future of humanity itself. On one side, you have actual pioneers of the field, like Geoffrey Hinton. They call him one of the godfathers of AI, signing statements that warn AI could pose an extinction-level risk on the same level as nuclear war. But on the other side, you have other giants in AI, like Andrew Ng and Yann LeCun, who argue this is all just doomsday hype that distracts us from the real problems right in front of us. The fact that the very people creating this tech are so divided, it just shows you how little anyone truly knows about where this is all going. So here we are. We're at a crossroads. We've seen that AI has this incredible potential to help us cure diseases, to tackle climate change, and to unlock new scientific frontiers. And we've also seen its power to spread lies, to amplify our worst biases, and to cause profound human suffering. The technology itself, it's just a tool. The real question, the one we all have to answer together, is what we choose to build with it.